Hey everyone, and welcome to the Gilbert.K Show. Today's guest is a total force, award-winning actress, powerhouse singer, and indie film queen Olivia Applegate. From Euphoria to Love and Death, Oregon Trail to America's Got Talent, she's dominated streaming, festivals, and the stage. Get ready for an unfiltered deep dive with one of Hollywood's boldest rising stars.
Hey Olivia, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. It's good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you too. Thanks for joining me on the show. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to watch or listen to a clip from your latest work. What are we going to see or listen to?
Yeah, so this is a little teaser for this cool vampire show that I'm on right now called the Black Dagger Brotherhood. So excited for y'all to take a peek.
For me,
Your father lived here.
who was my father?
He was as I am. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you.
Excellent. Okay, great. Um, what was one moment in your childhood that made you say, I want to perform for the rest of my life?
Yeah, so legend has it that and I do actually remember this, but so when I was 3 years old, my mom made my sister and I audition for the church musical. And for whatever reason, the way that they were doing the auditions, you had to audition in front of everyone. So you would go up in front of everybody, and I had to say the line, I want the sheets with the balloons on them. I still remember this line. I
Yeah.
said it, and then everybody clapped. And then I asked, do you want me to say anything else? And that's sort of the legend has it that that's where it began. So I learned early on that I loved performance and I loved live theater. That was my
Mhm.
first love. And I started doing a Shakespeare camp starting in fifth grade. And I'd say that that's when I really, really fell in love with acting and
Yeah.
storytelling in general. I mean, Shakespeare, come on, like that's pretty pretty hard to beat in terms of like
Yeah.
quality of writing. So yeah, I really fell in love with it early on, and for years in my journal I'd write, "P.S. I want to be an actress," like for
Well, that's
years.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were your parents in the film industry, or you were the
No,
only
they
person?
actually aren't. Although I do have some family on my mom's side, and actually maybe one or two people on my dad's side as well, who are artists and a couple actors, a lot of musicians, which is really fun because I'm also a musician. And I would say that both of my parents are very creative and artistic, but they didn't make careers out of it.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah, great. Um, so breaking into film with Terrence Malick, how did landing a role in Song to Song opposite Rooney Mara change your perception of acting, and how did you prepare for such a nuanced, poetic film?
Right? Well, first of all, that was a crazy experience.
I know.
Like that was the second film set I had ever been on, and all of my scenes were with Ryan Gosling and Rooney Mara. It was just like an unreal. I mean, it just set the bar in a crazy place. I was like, oh, this is what acting is like. Um,
Wow.
no, it was truly, truly magical. And the entire
Yeah.
process was really interesting because I wasn't allowed to know what I was auditioning for at first. There was like it was
Mm.
an anonymous project, and so when I found out that I got a call back, and I also there was no script, right? There was no
Yeah, yeah.
script.
It's
I
all
showed up to the
improv.
audition and I did like improvised scenes with the casting director.
Yeah.
And anyway, then I got an email, and in the email it said, "Production has responded to your tape. Terrence Malick would like to meet with you." And I was like, "Wait, what? This is unreal."
Yeah.
Um, so then I had a lunch meeting or a coffee, maybe it was, with Terry, And we just chatted for like an hour about all kinds of things. I
Uh-huh.
was a philosophy major in college, and he loves philosophy, studied philosophy as well. And we just talked about life and all kinds of things. And then at the end of the meeting, he said, "Okay, so you're too young for the role. So a couple things will happen. I'll either not cast you. I'll either age you up for the role, or I will write a part for you. But I don't know. There's a lot of plate spinning, so you'll hear from us eventually." And so then I left and was like, I have
Yeah.
no idea what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Um, and then I found out that he wrote a part for me, which was amazing. Um, but again, by write a part, it really means that he had like an outline in
Yeah.
his head. I'd never received a script. I remember I was doing one scene with Ryan Gosling, and in the movie, he's dating Rooney Mara, and I'm playing her
Yeah.
sister in the movie. And he and I are meeting for the first time, and my character had a name. Her name was Emma, and I go up and I'm introducing myself to him in this improvised scene.
Yeah.
And I say, "Oh, hi, my name's Emma." And he's super awkward and like doesn't respond. And it's weird. I'm like, "No, am I being weird, or am I a bad actor in front of Ryan Gosling?" I'm like, "What am I doing?" And then Terry calls cut, and Ryan comes up to me and he's like, "I'm so sorry. Terrence hasn't given me a name yet. So I don't know, like, I don't know how to answer that when you introduce yourself, I don't
Yeah.
know what to do." So, it felt like a runaway train, and you just like held on as long
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
could. But I had a great time because I knew nothing about how film sets were typically run.
Yeah.
So I was just along for the ride and having a great time. And most of the other actors were too. But like it was a very unusual experience, unbeknownst
Wow.
to me at the time. Yeah, it was
That's
awesome.
crazy.
It was really
So,
cool.
so you didn't have an outline, right? We just
No,
showed up
I
on
didn't know
set and then,
anything. Yeah, I showed up on set and I was in the hair and makeup trailer. I didn't even know Ryan Gosling was cast in the movie. And then he like comes into the hair and makeup trailer. And
yeah.
I'm a 19-year-old girl who's just watched Crazy Stupid Love. I was like, "Oh no, like this is a lot." But it was amazing. But I'm in the hair and makeup trailer. Um, and Terrence walks in and he has two little kids with him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Olivia, these are my grandkids. They're your children in the movie." And I was like, "Oh, I have kids. I'm a mom in this. Okay." It
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
really, really free form. And I had a blast doing it because you couldn't hold too tightly to anything. You just
Yeah.
got to experiment and play. It was really creative. I really liked it.
So what were the instructions like? Because you didn't have an outline, but I'm sure they were explained to you what you have to do on in the
Yeah.
scene or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So before coming to set, his assistant called me and was like, "Hey, don't worry about it. There's nothing for you to prepare. But this is like the description of your character. This is
Yeah.
what Terry has in mind for like the function of your role." And then when I showed up on set, Terry just talked to me about it. He's like, "This
That's
is what this scene is about." And talked to all of us. He's like, "This is what
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
accomplish. And these are sort of parameters of the thing. And now let's like play in the sandbox that I've described." So it
Yeah.
was like that. Yeah.
Wow. And did you do couple takes or it was like one take and then you just move on?
It was like a couple takes. I remember one take, we were doing steady cam shots. And so there were a couple technical things that we needed to get right and whatever. So
Yeah.
we would do some multiple takes. But again, like
Yeah.
very loose.
And is
Very,
it
very
one
loose.
camera or couple cameras?
I remember one camera, but don't
Yeah. Yeah.
quote me on it because this was 10 years ago now. So
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure.
That was fun.
It
That
was
was amazing.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then America's Got Talent versus A24 Cinema. So you had the mic and the camera. How did being a quarter finalist on AGT shape your confidence as a performer across different mediums?
Yeah. So I would say that it just really was such a great sort of crash course in the entertainment industry, full stop. It was the biggest thing I'd ever done. I had just shot on the Terrence Malick movie. I had just booked one other little indie that we hadn't even finished filming. I was really at the beginning stages of my career. And coincidentally, my guitarist Eric and we actually got scouted for the show. Like they
Oh,
had
wow.
heard about us because we'd won like a talent show in Austin. And so we'd
Okay.
gotten recommended to the show, and they reached out. And so we really had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And then we
Yeah.
show up and we do the show and we end up, making it pretty far. And you just learn so much about the business of
Yeah.
entertainment and how, yeah, just all kinds of crazy things like that. I learned a lot about contracts on that show, learned a lot about how, like, productions, especially in reality TV, they're like editing for storyline and they're like trying to create narratives and all of this stuff. So it was just a crash course. And then you're also, that was YouTube. We were getting like millions of views on YouTube. So it was this sort of
Wow.
crash course and like suddenly being very public facing. I just learned a lot of lessons really quickly. And the cool
Yeah.
thing is that I learned that like, oh, I can hang. Like some of
Yeah.
this is pretty hard and pretty intense, but I feel like I can handle this. Um, so yeah, it was just a crash course. It took me to school. I learned a lot really fast. So it was great.
Wow.
Really
So
educational.
did you go to school for music or what?
So I was in the university orchestra. I played cello, actually.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then I was in bands in college as a vocalist. Um, but I actually studied philosophy, and then I minored in theater. Um, yeah, so that's what I studied. I
Wow.
intended to be at pre-law. I wanted to go to law school. Um, and apparently philosophy majors did well in the LSAT. So I was like, great, I'll study philosophy. I'm curious about
Yeah.
that. Yeah. But anyway, the path not taken, I guess.
Yeah. That's great. So, Krisha to Euphoria, you've been in projects that are raw, real, and often emotionally intense. What draws you to those kinds of stories?
That's such a great question. I mean, honestly, the Krisha of it all, that was my friends making a movie. So I said yes to my friends making a movie. And then I think sort of one thing leads to another. And because I'd been in Krisha, I think people saw me as an actor who knows how to do drama and does intense storylines. And I don't know, I've got like high cheekbones and a strong jaw. I mean, like, I feel like there's something dramatic at first, whatever. Um, and also, like I can shed a single tear and, do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think work begets work. And if people have seen you do something, they're like, great, we know that they can do that. Let's like trust them with this.
Yeah.
And I really love getting to do drama because you just really get to go to the depths of some human experience and it gives you permission to
Yeah.
feel, like really feel things and experience things in a really deep way, which I love.
Yeah.
And I love getting to do comedy as well. Like I feel like actors get asked a lot, like, do you have a dream role or whatever? And
Yeah. Yeah.
I answer this question in a similar way to when people ask me what kind of music I like. I say that I like good music, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to projects and roles, I like great writing. That's what I
Yeah.
like. And
Yeah.
so anyway, so I'm drawn to great writing, and I feel very fortunate that I've gotten lots of opportunities to do projects that are great writing that are quite dramatic, and I've really
Yeah.
gotten to do all the things. I've gotten to do it all. It's really been awesome.
How was the experience on Euphoria? Like, how was it? Yeah. How
Yeah,
was it? How was it?
it was great. So,
Yeah.
so I really loved I was in the pilot episode, and I loved the woman directing the episode. Her name's Augustine Frizzell, and she was incredible to work with. And it was a very high stakes set because, it was a show that had a lot of anticipation around it, and everybody really wanted to do a great job. And
Yeah.
Sam, the writer and creator, was very hands on, and so people were really invested, and you felt the stakes on set. You were like, oh, I better like deliver. I better do a
Deliver.
good job. So it was an intense shoot.
Wow.
So great. Like I really loved everybody that I worked with. It was incredibly professional. Everybody was just so excellent.
Yeah.
And I found that really inspiring. I was like, oh man, I'm amongst pros right now. Everybody's really, really talented.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful show.
Oh,
Um, Yeah, so let's take a break before we move on to the next segment. We're going to play a game called This or That. It's a rapid fire game, and you'll need to choose one of two options, not one or two options, as quickly as possible. Are you ready, Olivia?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
Okay. Singing live or acting on camera?
Acting on camera. Singing scares me so much.
Euphoria set or Dirty John set?
Euphoria.
Indie film festival or studio blockbuster?
Oh, Indie Film Festival. That's hard.
Red carpet glam or recording studio comfort?
Recording studio comfort, 1000%.
Oh, I'm gonna put you on the spot now with this one. Terrence Malick or Judd Apatow?
There's Malick. But would never say no to Judd. Judd, you hear this? I'm so down to work with you.
Texas barbecue or LA vegan cafe?
Barbecue.
Rehearsing lines or writing scripts?
Ooh, rehearsing lines just because writing is so hard.
Movie marathon or music jam session?
Music jam session.
Drama queen role or quirky comic relief?
Quirky comic relief, just to mix it up.
And the final one is Cannes Film Festival or the Grammys?
Can.
Yes. Okay. So you had a triple one in 2023. Love and Death, Oregon Trail, and Vacation Friends 2 all hit #1 on their platforms. What is it like to suddenly see 3 of your projects go viral in 1 year?
It was so exciting and also a little bit devastating because it was during the strikes. So I wasn't allowed to do publicity for anything. We got a premiere for Love and Death that slipped in right before the strikes, but everything else I didn't get to do a premiere. I didn't get to promote it. I could do no publicity. And meanwhile, I was having the biggest moment
Yeah.
in my career. I couldn't even post about it. So
Oh, no.
it was this double-edged sword, but it was ultimately so encouraging and so exciting. And I loved that it was those 3 projects because in it you have a true crime drama, then you have a Western horror period piece, and then you have a buddy comedy. And I'm in all 3 of them, and it's just such a range. Like I play sweet, caring housewife in Love and Death. I play an anti-hero, badass Western horseback riding, gunslinging gal in Oregon Trail. And then I play like the romantic love interest comedic relief in Vacation Friends 2. So I was just like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Like I love the variety. And just yeah, I felt like it was such a great year to get to flex a bunch of different creative muscles. It was just great.
Yeah.
I loved it and wish that I could have promoted them.
More or yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So Love and Death versus Euphoria. What's the biggest difference between working on a grounded true crime series versus a stylized teen drama? And what did each teach you?
Yeah. So I think the main difference that like immediately comes to mind is that when you're working on a story based on a true story, you're working with real people who actually existed. So you have source material that you get to go to and be really specific about. Like Carol Crowder, the woman that I played, exists. And so I got to do some research, and that was really nice. I honestly kind of love that because then you're like, oh, I've got a guidebook. I do this. This is what I do, and that's my job. So that's what I loved about the true crime, and also it was just such a true drama. Although because it was David E. Kelley, there was a lot of levity in it, or as much as there could be. So that was really fun tonally. Is that there's something really dry and a little irreverent about his writing, and it's so smart. So that was really fun and a fun tone to explore within the confines of these like real people who existed that you get to match. And
Hmm.
then the euphoria of it all. I mean, kind of like I was describing before, because it was
Yeah,
the pilot, we were creating the tone in real time. So that
yeah.
was a great like collaborative exercise. And again, just both of these shows, the talent is just like next level. And so I was really inspired watching the other actors work because they have such precision. And I
Hmm.
think on both of these things, you get to be really, really precise. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's that was kind of
Wow.
long-winded. I hope that made
No,
sense.
this is good. Good. So writing, producing, and acting, you've worn all three hats on several festival circuits, hits. How do you switch between creative modes but without losing your artistic vision?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I would say when it comes to producing and writing, I just still have such a beginner's mindset because I feel like such a student of those things, like in the early stages. And granted, I mean, I've produced several projects, I've written several projects, and still I'm like, wow, like there's so much to learn. So it feels fresh to me, like
Yeah.
and I just stay so engaged mentally because I just feel like I'm learning so much. So that keeps it fresh for me because I feel like I am just always learning. Um, and then with acting, it's like my first love. I just love it so much. And I find it like such a creative act. So I don't know. I also think that moving between those things
Hmm.
keeps you fresh, and it also every role like writing, producing, direct I've also directed a couple things, directing, editing. I've sat in a lot of editing rooms.
Yeah.
All of these things inform everything else. Like
Yeah.
sitting in an editing room made me a better actor, made me a better director, made me a better writer. Like
Yeah.
I really like toggling between things because I think it everything informs everything and it makes me an all around better um I don't know, actor, writer, creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So what's your preference? Is it to, if you write something, do you like to direct it and produce it, or can you trust it with somebody else? It's like your
Yeah.
baby, right?
Yeah, that's kind of context dependent, I guess. But
Yeah.
I would love somebody to produce it. And then I like directing it. But there are some like creative partners that I've loved working with that like if I wrote something that I also wanted to act in, I would want them to direct it maybe. Because if I'm going to act in it, that's kind of a lot to also be directing. So
Yeah.
it just kind of depends. If I'm not directing it, I would want it to go to somebody that I really, really trust, and I would prefer to not have to produce it. I would prefer somebody else produce it, and then I just get to be creative.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Lots of people like to do that.
Yeah, right. I know. That's the dream.
Yeah, yeah, just the creative aspect of it.
Hmm.
So, as a director, how do you make sure that your vision is there? Like, for example, you see when you see Wes Anderson, you have all these symmetrical shots and the colors and all that stuff. Um, but at the same time, it's collaborative, right? So you want to make sure that you collaborate with the other team members. But how do you balance that? How do
Right.
you balance that you make sure you have your vision and it shows you have your signature on it, it says Olivia on it,
Right.
but at the same time you want to collaborate. How do
Yeah,
you balance that?
absolutely. So I think the two main things that come to mind are you need to have effective communication,
Yeah.
and I think I'm thinking of the importance of hiring. So I really think if you are good at hiring, if you hire the right department heads as a director, you're golden. Like it's gonna be great. If you are able to hire cast that you trust and think understand your vision, and then department heads. Um, yeah, so I think the hiring is a huge huge part of that. But then another thing for me that I really learned is like I refer to myself as a recovering people pleaser, like definitely have the like woman from the South thing where I'm like, oh, I just never want to upset anybody ever. So learning how to toe the line of like what battles you're willing to pick or not pick, and which things you really want to make sure happen, and sticking by your guns in those situations. I think that's really important. But I really think if you have effective communication and great hiring, that takes care of
Mhm.
a lot of the issues you bump up against as a director.
Are
Yeah.
you the type of director who is on both sides, like the technical aspect involved and the actors, or just the actors? Because some directors there, it depends.
Yeah, right. I would say that I'm definitely like an actor's director,
Yeah,
more than a technical director, but I love learning about the technical side of things, and I would love to become an increasingly technically aware director.
yeah,
Like I've been, and like the last show that I was on, I was always like, what lens is that and why? Like, it's really, yeah, and why? And what light is that and whatever. And because I
yeah,
think, well, one, as an actor, it's important to know what lens they're on because it affects your performance and whatnot.
yeah,
Um, but I also just I think that it's just such a cool thing to get to learn about. So I would love to
yeah,
become a more technical director, but right now I'm very much an actor's director. I feel
yeah.
like I can talk to actors effectively. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, have you ever played a character that mirrored your personal life too closely, one that emotionally challenged or changed you?
Yes. Yes. There have been several, but the one that's top of mind is the show that I just finished, or not just finished, but one of the most recent projects that I did, this vampire show that we referenced earlier. Um, so the character goes through, and I mean, maybe trigger warning here. This show deals with sexual violence, and
Hmm.
so my character goes through sexual violence, and I've experienced that in my life as well. And so that was really close to home and just very, very intense. And also, this show, um, something that I love about it and is really interesting is that it's shot female gaze, which you don't always see in media. So you're sort of experiencing this story a lot of the time through my character's eyes. And so it was really important to me for anyone who'd experienced sexual violence, including myself, to do justice and right by people who've experienced that. And so I also just felt like an incredible responsibility to the
Yeah,
story. But it was also intense. There was also like a PTSD
of
element to
course.
this.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it's really important to, I feel like for actors, a lot of time is spent talking about how to get into character, but
Mhm.
not a ton of time is spent talking about how to get out of character, and also when in character, how to safely distinguish yourself between
Mhm.
reality and storytelling.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, with that show, my mind understood that this was pretend, that it's not actually happening, but my
Yeah.
physiology is like, but wait a second,
Yeah.
you
I've
know?
went through it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was just a really intense experience, and it was handled
Um,
very, very well by production. Like, I want to say that I felt very safe, and it was all good. But it
yeah.
was
Yeah.
just it was a tall order, and it was a very physically and emotionally demanding role that
Wow.
took me a couple weeks after we wrapped to
Recover.
recover from. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, how, as an actor, how do you prepare for a role? Do you have any tips for our audience?
Yeah. Yeah, well, again, I think it is a little bit depends. So, for example, just to reference this vampire show again, it's based on a book series, like a beloved book series
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
Black Dagger Brotherhood. And so, again, I had source material. So, in prepping for this role, I just poured over the books and made sure that I was building a character from the existing material, and I just referenced it all the time. And the great thing about a book is that it's often always describing the character's inner world and what they're thinking and why. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
great, I will just
Yeah, lots
do
of background.
that.
Yeah.
And like, oh, that's what's going on with her in this movie.
Yeah.
Great, I'll do that. So when you have source material, I'd say just pour yourself into the source material.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, like I really love creating playlists that I think the characters would think like love to listen to. That's sort of on the more like left field side. But then otherwise, I'm a text kind of gal. Like I really look at the script. And like if it's a period piece, I research the time period. I look at what the writer has done before, what the director has done before, what the producers have done before, to try to get a really clear sense of tone and the world that we're creating. And then yeah, I just dig into the script. That's really what I lean into. Yeah.
That's a great tip.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so you've collaborated with bold indie voices and festival darlings. What advice would you give to young? Probably it's the same question. What advice would you give to young actors who dream of that path instead of the blockbuster route?
I would say absolutely go for it. Go
Yeah.
for it. And the cool thing about indies too is that this isn't always the case, but because they tend to be smaller, there can sometimes be an even more collaborative feeling there, because it's just a little more intimate by virtue of its scale, you know? And so I think indie is a great way to get your feet wet, because often on productions like that, people are wearing multiple hats. And if you're curious about something, you can, ask to sit in Video Village on days that you're not working, and ask to shadow a grip if you want, or a PA or whatever. I just think it's a great environment for learning as much as you can about how things actually get made. And I highly encourage people who are interested in storytelling and filmmaking and TV to make things with your friends, like, and do it really low budget. I think it's a great way to learn. I think that it's the entertainment industry is kind of one of the last true apprentice industries, and you learn it by doing it. So I
Yeah.
think indie is a great way to start. Yeah.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
progress anyway. I don't know
Progress.
what this
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna take a second break. We're gonna play the game True or False, and it's time to test some quirky facts about your life and career.
I'm so curious.
Are you ready, Olivia?
I think so. Okay.
Okay. True or false? I've performed in more films than I've released songs.
True.
True or false? I was once starstruck on set and forgot my lines.
False. Thank goodness. But on the Terrence Malick set, if I'd had lines, I would have forgotten them.
Yeah. True or false? I wrote my first screenplay during lockdown.
No, I actually wrote one before then. Yeah.
True or false? I've never watched myself on Love and Death.
I have false. I've watched myself on that. Yeah. Too good
True
of
or
a show
false?
not to watch it. Come on.
True or false? I've played both a villain and a victim in the same year.
True.
True or false? I'd rather sing on stage than walk a red carpet.
Oh, that's hard. I mean, it depends on the carpet and depends on the stage, Gilbert. That's hard. I don't know. Context
Okay.
dependent.
True or false? My dream collab is with Florence Pugh.
Oh my God, true. I would, yeah. Any day of the week.
True or false? I've been mistaken for another actress at an audition.
Ooh, not an audition, but I have been mistaken for, oh my gosh, oh no. Abigail, oh shoot, now I'm not going to remember her last name. That is so embarrassing. Okay, cool. But I've been mistaken for somebody before, yes.
For somebody else. True or false? I was cast in Oregon Trail after DMing the director.
After what? The director?
DM, like the DMing.
DMing, false.
True or false? I've cried during a table read.
True. Yes.
Okay, let's move on to our final segment. You've got a show and two features dropping in 2025. What can you tell us without getting sued that will hype up your fans?
Yes. Okay, great. So we've talked about this vampire show a bit, and
Yeah.
so that is streaming now. Um, every episode drops every Friday, and that's going to be super fun. It's based on this epic series called the Black Dagger Brotherhood, and it's streaming on Passionflix, which is a streaming platform that's dedicated to the romance genre. So this is like a fantasy romantasy, I guess is what it's called, series. And so if you love vampires and you love romance, you really got to check out the show. It's pretty awesome and incredible, and it's gritty, and it's got a lot of action, and it's got a lot of heart, and it's got a lot of really hot vampires in it. So there's also that. Okay, so there's that one. And then the two features that I have coming out, one is a horror comedy called Dead Dawn, and that one is so fun. And if you want to see me in a crazy blonde wig, please check it out. It's really, really great. It's set in like small town Texas, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but just it's got a lot of heart, it's got a lot of humor, and it is horror. So it checks a lot of really fun boxes, that one. And then the last one is this movie called Silt, which I'm really excited about as well. That's a psychological thriller drama. A group of friends go to a lake house, and then weird stuff starts happening. And there's a really exciting cameo in that movie. I don't know if you're familiar with the actor Tommy Wiseau from The Room.
Yeah. Yeah.
We worked with Tommy Wiseau, and that was an incredible experience. He is in this movie. It's like his first acting gig since he did The Room, and it's pretty amazing and definitely worth checking out. So, those are the next three that are coming out.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Um, with an album on the way, do you fuse your musicality with your acting? Do you see a music-focused film project in the future?
I would love that. Gilbert, thank you for asking that question. I am putting that out there. I would love to sing in a movie and a TV show. I just think that would be so fun. And I've done it a little bit before, but I would love a character who is like a singer. And actually, I'm developing a show with a friend of mine right now, where I play a rock star singer gal. So that's really fun. So we're putting it out there. I would love to get to merge these two worlds even more.
Yeah.
And I just released an EP in February.
That's
That's
amazing.
out in the world. Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
So what are some unseen pressures or misconceptions about overnight success in the streaming age?
Yeah. Well, two things I think. One is that I feel like overnight success is very rarely actually overnight success. Like my friends who've become overnight success have been grinding for like a decade,
Yeah.
myself included, I think. Like I really started acting at like 18, and I started really booking at like 28. And so there's that. But then also, I will say that there is more opportunity for crazy overnight success now that there's streaming, or at least that's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
And I think now that there is social media, there's just so much more. If you're on social media, there's so much more access to you and so much more feedback about you, so much more directly than there ever used to be.
Yeah.
And I think that is really intense. And I think that that's hard for people to manage sometimes. And I know for me, I've done projects that that are based on beloved IP before, and I have fans who are incredible and so encouraging and so lovely, and I feel that I am so lucky to have a fan base that is as kind and generous and encouraging as they are, and that's
Yeah.
been wonderful. But I've also experienced online people not being kind online.
I
And
know.
it's just an interesting thing that people, one, feel like they know you even though they don't actually know you, and feel like they have a right to say things to you that I think you very rarely would say to someone's face, you know,
Yeah.
at least on the critical side of things, because people will
It's because
also,
they're hiding behind the screen, right? They can say whatever
yeah,
they want.
but people will also be incredibly encouraging and wonderful. So
Nice. Yeah.
it is both, but I think the thing that I've had to learn, and I think is part of what you're asking about with this sort of overnight success thing suddenly being thrust in front of a lot of people who can kind of reach you pretty directly and say things about you pretty directly to you.
Yeah.
Um, I've learned that it's just best to not take any of it too deeply. Like I'm not to not be overly invested in anything that gets
Yeah.
discussed online. The good, the bad, the neutral, whatever. It's all good. It's all good. So, I don't know, that kind of meandered a bit, but I think
No.
that the social media element of it, I think is part of the really sort of newer thing that's a different dynamic to manage for people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So why was it important for you to write and produce your own work? And what stories do you feel Hollywood still isn't telling?
I mean, how much time do you have? Like, yeah, no. So for the writing and producing, that was because I couldn't get arrested for a while. I wasn't booking. So something that happened, I came out to LA and I had this credit on my resume. I had the Terrence Malick on my resume. I had just done all the stuff with Rudy Mara and Ryan Gosling. I was 20 years old and I'd just been on America's Got Talent. And so I got to LA and I got meetings with everybody. I was getting auditions everywhere and I kept testing for shows. I was in like the final 2 or 3 for just
Yeah.
so many things, but didn't land any of them because often it went to the offer, because
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
testing, there's famous people that have to say no first, right? And so I'd been bumping up against that ceiling for a really, really long time. And I was just tired of it, tired of not getting to make things and waiting for permission or to be hired to do them. So I just started being proactive about it with friends and I wanted to make things. And so I started writing and making things because that's how I was going to be able to be creative and making things. And then as far as stories go, I mean, something that I really loved about the film Krisha is that
Mhm.
it's centered around like an older woman, a woman in her like 60s. Um, and I love that. I would love there to be more leading ladies who are older. I think that's really important. I mean, the number of things that I think that we could tell more stories about are just incredible. But basically, I feel like storytelling is how we make meaning and sense of things, right?
Yeah, yeah,
As
yeah.
human beings. And um, images inform how we see ourselves and how we're seen, and a lack of images does the same thing. So if you don't
Mhm.
see yourself reflected in storytelling, in media, it's a really ostracizing, it can be a really, it's just a really difficult feeling. And so I'm interested in more stories being told that aren't stories we typically see, because
Yeah.
I'm interested in people being able to see themselves in media in a way that is like supportive and nourishing,
Mhm.
validating.
Mhm. That's a great answer. Um, so what keeps you grounded with all this momentum? What's one thing that always brings you back to yourself, whether it's a ritual, a person, or a place?
Yeah, I would say it's the people who've known me my whole life, which is my family and a couple of my best friends that I've known since I was just a kid. Also, my nieces and nephews, or my niece and my nephews, I mean, they keep it so real. Like, they don't care. They're little kids and they're great. So I love that. The people who've known me my whole life, they just really hold it all in context. And I really, really appreciate that. They keep me really grounded, and I'm reminded that they love me and are interested in me and are invested in me regardless. And that's just really, really grounding. And they're like, "Oh, you did what? Like what movie? Oh, cool. Okay." Like, they're like they're they're um they're really excited and happy for me, but they're also like, "You're just Olivia. We've known you since you were in diapers." Like, they, you know. And I appreciate it. I'm like, "Thank you. That's great." Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So one last question, Olivia. If you can complete this sentence, in 5 years, I see myself
Yes.
dot dot
Okay.
dot.
Right? Well, there's gonna be a run-on sentence, Gilbert. Like, so okay, in 5 years, I see myself continuing to work on projects with artists I respect and admire that are incredible writing, that are well funded, and have great commercial success. So basically, I feel like Emma Stone. Just like the answer to that question
Yeah.
is in 5 years, I want to Emma Stone. Like, that's basically it. I really want to continue to deepen my craft as an artist and expand and get to flex my muscles and do a variety of creative things like singing, directing, all kinds of genres, um, film, TV, stage. I just want to do great art. That's what I want to
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Um, and one last question. How can our audience connect with you?
Yeah. So I'm pretty bad at technology. So the only thing that I do is Instagram. That's all I can handle. It's all I can manage. And my handle is at Olivia Applegate. It's just my name, and you are welcome to find me there.
That's great. Okay, we're reaching the end. That's all, folks. Olivia Applegate, everyone. Thank you, Olivia. Thanks
Thank
for
you
joining the
so
show.
much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.